But is he in danger of being overtaken on the green issue? Tonight he's expected to urge his country to cut its oil consumption by a fifth. Only yesterday, the chief executives of some of the largest companies in the US urged the president to introduce more ambitious measures to tackle global warming. Peter Marshall is in Washington.
Well, climate change or conflict, it never rains, but it pours for Mr. Bush. A BBC survey today shows that global attitudes to America around the world show America's reputation around the world has plummeted because of its action in Iraq. But it's not just abroad. Here in the United States, attitudes towards the president have soured significantly. One eminent historian last month said that this was the worst president in American history. That's 43rd out of 43. Now, tonight, Mr. Bush faces a hostile Congress for the first time in his penultimate State of the Union address, and it had been thought he may produce some bold initiative on climate change to try and claw back lost ground. But now it seems that's not going to happen. Welcome to America, weird weather capital of the world. It's snowing where they expect sun, like here on the desert floor of Arizona, or the iced orange groves of California, where they've declared a state of emergency. And while much of the country has frozen, there have been heat waves where they'd expect snow, like New York State, all of which brings home the issue of climate change as never before.
The American people are increasingly concerned about global warming. They want to see action taken. Because of Hurricane Katrina, because of other extreme weather events, the weather is just strange, and it gives them a real visceral sense that something is wrong, that something is changing, and they're increasingly feel that they have an impact on it, and they want to know what they can do to help.
But if they're looking to the White House for leadership, they do so in vain. The president, who last year pledged to break America's addiction to oil, has yet to come up with a policy. Even the energy industry is in despair after he cancelled a meeting with chief executives from the likes of DuPont to General Electric, who've been demanding caps on greenhouse gases. They say voluntary measures aren't enough.
The time is now, and time is of the essence. The sooner we act, the more options we have for solutions. The less costly they will be, and the fewer uncertainties we will face with the climate.
Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth has been winning awards and focusing minds, but the White House has appeared in disarray on climate change. Mandatory carbon caps were in a draft of the president's speech, we're told, but were then removed. So what's left?
I think we'll see a big push for more renewable fuels, possibly a push for increased efficiency of vehicles, maybe a nod to climate change, but it's not going to go far enough.
So President Bush is behind American opinion again?
He is increasingly isolated. The Democrats now control Capitol Hill. Both leaders in the House and the Senate have said it's an important issue for them and they want to move it forward. Even within his own party, Governor Schwarzenegger out in California, former Governor Pataki have all been leaders on this issue and pushing this issue forward.
If the political weather's bad for Bush on climate change, it's no better on Iraq. The plan was he'd be spending little time tonight on the war. Now it seems Iraq and associated foreign policy will take up half his speech. Americans are turning against Bush's Iraq policy in ever-increasing numbers. 65% now say they're against the surge in troops. That's 4% up on 2 weeks ago when he first announced the policy. On Capitol Hill, Republicans are running for cover. 5 Republican senators are now on the record as saying they oppose Bush's Iraq policy. Every day, it seems, the president is further out of step with almost everybody on almost everything. I'm very grateful to you. Even a bedrock Bush supporter like Danielle Pletka says he's failed.
No, I wouldn't argue that he's isolated. I wouldn't argue that it's a disaster, and I don't think that he's alone. I think that he has done a bad job. But the biggest problem that he has is that everything is viewed through the prism of Iraq. If we were able to take that out of the equation and have a conversation about climate change policy, you'd find that all of the acolytes of Al Gore are still in the same place as all the acolytes of Al Gore were, and all of the skeptics are all still in the same place that they were. So the real problem for the president
that's not true, is it, though? Because you've got CEOs coming to Washington saying you've got to do something. We're looking for leadership here.
No, I think that's really politics. Don't forget, that the United States Senate passed a resolution, 99 to nothing, saying that the United States shouldn't sign up to Kyoto. Now, while it's true that we've had a warm January, I don't think that we're all really such moths to the flame that this is going to vastly alter the course.
If it is all politics for George Bush, in fact and metaphor, the weather has turned dire. But true to form, he won't change course. We know him well enough by now to understand that this president is not for turning. For good or ill, that's his style, and give or take a minor measure here and some tinkering there, that's what America will get from him tonight.
Peter Marshall's in Washington now. Peter, what's the latest on what will be in the speech?
Well, I've got some of the text. There's no surprises at all. I mean, the war on terror, he's saying, for all of us in this room, that's all of Congress, there's no higher responsibility than to protect the people of this country from danger. To win the war on terror, we must take the fight to the enemy. For the terrorists, life since 9/11 has never been the same. The war on terror we fight today is a generational struggle. No surprises.
He's going to make another speech, though, I gather, on energy policy. Is that right?
Well, he's going to DuPont, the energy giant, tomorrow to talk about changes to energy policy, but there's nothing really mandatory. I mean, there's this 20 in 10 plan he's got, which is to reduce gasoline consumed by 20% in the next 10 years. Now, on energy policy, he's saying extending hope and opportunity depends on a stable supply of energy that keeps America's economy running and America's environment clean. For too long, our nation has been dependent on foreign oil. This dependence leaves us more vulnerable to hostile regimes and to terrorists, concluding it's in our vital interest to diversify America's energy supply, and the way forward is through technology. So new technologies, but nothing mandatory, and he'll go to DuPont tomorrow to try and flesh that out.
Peter, thank you very much. Well, we're joined now from Washington by